Just because the name on the gaming studio says Infinity Ward, Bungie, that doesn't mean these are the same guys who made all of the games that you enjoyed when you were younger or you're enjoying now. From a year-to-year basis, do the math. They are turning over these jobs every single year to a new group of people, the same group of people, recycling the same group of people. If there is a 12-year hiatus between the last time you saw that game and then afterwards, there is a 99.9% chance the person who made the game that you liked is no longer working for that game, and you're going to get a totally different product. And sometimes you get lucky, like a God of War. But sometimes you just get totally screwed, like a Dragon Age Velga. And I know it's not super huge news when you see a director leave a game studio, but most of the time that's some of the biggest news that you'll ever hear, because you know that game is going to perform and look totally different than any other thing in that franchise. Case in point, if they make another Metal Gear Solid, it is not going to be the same unless this dude Hideo Kojima had some type of secret protege hidden up in the mountains over at Konami, but that's not happening. They're making pachinko machines. And that's where things get interesting. Just because Dragon's Dogma was made by some genius guy, that doesn't mean they made the DLC Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. So when the game Dragon Dogma 2 plays more like Dragon's Dogma, you understand that he did not make Dark Arisen in the first place. Then you can also understand that when he leaves the company, that does not escape the chance of them making a DLC for the game because someone else already made it. When you realize Call of Duty keeps flipping the franchises between different game studios, you know that you're going to get a totally different product when you get Advanced Warfare or you get the new World at War back in the day. It's just a totally different thing. It's not the same thing. And to stick on Call of Duty, the map designs that you love are usually made by a particular team or group of people, and then when they leave the company, they have to keep redoing the map over and over again, so you'll just always have that map to play. But what if you want a new map? Well, they can't go back to the horse. He's probably gone, maybe gone to greener pastures, or he got let go because they thought, maybe AI could do it. But at the same time, you can't over-focus on the makers of type of thing. Just because someone say it's from the makers of Apex Legends doesn't mean, and it's the same guy, doesn't mean that this is going to be the same as Apex Legends. Because maybe, just maybe, they just struck lightning in a bottle, and that lightning, it will not strike twice. And speaking of high card, the fans blaming the other fans for the failure of the game, maybe, you should blame the gaming studios or they don't exist anymore. You can blame no one. How about blame no one? The game failed. Putting too much blame on these publishers where the developers are taking the money just fine is freaking ridiculous. Sometimes you just have to look at it super objectively. Sometimes the dudes just failed to connect with the audience. Happens all the time on YouTube, but it doesn't waste millions of dollars for me to talk into a camera. Let's move on to Kickstarter, where the relationship between developer and consumer has been morphed into this symbiotic relationship. Now, this could work exceptionally well in the case of Baldur's Gate 3, and they were able to get Wizards of the Coast involved so they can actually make the game. But they never even got money for it. They were actually giving money to Wizards of the Coast in licensing from the revenue. Now, on the flip side of that, we have Ashes of Creations that lied to the people who got the game in the first place. Then, when the game released, it was mid, average, trash. And then, there was a secret investor all the time, and they pulled the plug on it. And now, nobody wanted to say, oh, I lied the whole time. They don't want their face on that. They don't want no angry mob at their door. So, you know what they did? They chickened out, and now we just have a bunch of roaches giving their different side of the story on everything. It's a big mess. That's why channels can cover a big mess, because it's a mess. And since there was no middleman in that relationship, there was no way we could blame a outside source. They're still trying to, but you have to blame the developers in this situation. We need to blame the developers more often. They are the ones doing this stuff half the time. They are making the game. They want the game to be made like this. Stop doing this. Because game developers need a bunch of money to make the games come to fruition. So if they're not going to get it from you, from the crowdsourcing, they're going to have to get it from somebody else and never tell you about it. So don't feel betrayed. Just know the money has to get somewhere, because they have this holy idea in their head that their game should be made no matter what. Because games don't get canceled all the time. No one came up and said, you know what, we ran out of money. We failed. You know why? Because that would take accountability, and nobody want to be on the hook legally for all that money. Follow the money. I see why devs need a dedicated person to tell people a complete fabrication, because they need to be able to buy enough time to secure enough money to actually finish their games in 2026 and beyond. And I get it, this put the individual game dev who works for a big studio in a tough spot, but it does not excuse the whole bunch of them as a whole. Let one person go, then we gotta really figure out who's the culprit here, because if you keep blaming the publishers for them making some bad games, think about it. If the game was just bad, some of these games are really, really good, and then the microtransactions are just annoying. But sometimes the games are really, really bad, and then the microtransactions make it even worse. It's an additional punch, because the publisher is expecting this super awesome game that everyone's gonna buy, but what they get is a super mediocre game that should have been $20 on the PlayStation Store. That is a big deficit in what we're talking about here. I think devs are over promising to get the money, and then the publishers advertise this game and the marketers advertise this game to be a big deal, but in actuality it is bad. And Kickstarter should have exposed that to you, because we became the ones funding these games, and we are been getting scammed on the daily all the time. Patreons that never get updated, game developers that never even finish their games. But there is a group of people who is also making great games with the money that is given them, and that happens in the boardroom on a corporate scale for millions of dollars every day. So don't blame your publisher for your games getting worse. You blame the publisher for putting the microtransactions in and making an average game even worse. You blame these amongst us developers who are using the exoskin of the former game developers that we used to like and making bad games. You blame them, because they should have the decency to put their name on it. Not after the game is done, not after the credits are rolling and we realize there was a different guy. If we make it that far, I want it when the game is being marketed. Thank you for watching the whole video. Please comment if you have an opinion. I read everything. And also subscribe if you want more content like this one on the Gabe Coy channel.